Hello and welcome to episode number 87 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And oh boy, what an interesting week it was. We have the worst OBP of all time. We have the second best OBP of all time. A lot in between, a lot kind of close to the bottom. We've also had Hunter Renfroe being traded 3 times in 1 week. Mike Trout injury that's maybe not as serious as we thought it might be, but a lot to talk about here in this crazy time.
Absolutely. And well, the one thing that stays consistent during these crazy times is the fact that I make a lot of trades. And I think that's a great segue to start discussing the trades. Don't you think, Cam?
Is it a segue if it's just the first thing we say? Does that count as a segue?
We segued from the introduction to talking about the trades.
Okay, that's fair. All right. So you made a trade right after, and this was even before the episode dropped. The episode dropped where we declared Hunter Renfroe Anthony's matchup MVP, talked about how great he's been. You had this trade in the works. You almost dropped it live on air, but shortly after it was recorded and before it was published, you went out and acquired Hunter Renfroe.
Yeah, no. Funnily enough, I think you mentioning on the podcast that he was the MVP kind of pushed me a little more to get this done, because I was like, it'd be hilarious if Cam made this big deal about Renfroe and then I acquired him live on the podcast. That would have been like a top 5 podcast moment, I think. But the trade. So I traded Alex and Zach's 2023 third. In the next second, I acquired to Anthony for Hunter Renfroe. I already gave them the second back. It's Jake and Clayton's 2023 second. So I got Alex and Zach's 2023 third back. So it's just a second for Renfroe. Renfroe all along, I kind of either had one of two purposes for him. He was either going to be trade bait and for a third baseman, specifically Matt Chapman, which we'll get into in a second, or I was going to kind of keep him as a bench bat. I don't like the fact that Renfroe is not a big OBP guy, but you can't deny the power. 504 slugging this year. He's in the top 20 of all major league players in slugging percentage. His 18 home runs, 41 ribbies, power and run production was an area I've been struggling with a little bit. So the trade at the time I thought made sense as a kind of a cheap bench bat. I'm a little bummed because I could have had him for a 3rd round pick from Jake right before he traded him to Anthony. And I told Jake, like, oh, hey, the next time I have an open roster spot, like, I'm down to make that trade. But he traded him away before I was able to open up a roster spot. So, I probably talked more about this trade than I needed to. But yeah, Hunter Renfroe.
Well, if you love hearing about Hunter Renfroe trades, you are in luck because we have yet another one to talk about. Because you immediately went and flipped him away again. He wasn't the main part of this deal, but as you were alluding to, you wanted to get Matt Chapman for him, and that you did. You traded Justin Turner, Hunter Renfroe, Henry Davis, Warming Bernabel, and Tink Hence. Those are 2 prospects with interesting names. 2 EBO for Jorge Polanco, Matt Chapman, Conor Norby, Gunnar Hoglund, and a second, which then went to Anthony. A lot of big names in this trade. I'm not sure how I feel about it for you, but why don't you do some talking?
Yeah, so I'll add this tidbit at the beginning. It's funny how I mentioned Zane made a big deal. He's like, oh, you're really out here acquiring Hunter Renfroe before the bar. And I was like, Hunter Renfroe is going to give me the power to kill the bar. And then immediately after the bar, I traded away Hunter Renfroe. So Hunter Renfroe served his purpose. And then I was like, yeah, he's gone. With respect to this trade, if you're going to boil this down to kind of some of the individual pieces here, Hunter Renfroe is basically traded for that 2nd round pick. If you're taking those 2 things out of the trade, it's really Justin Turner, who I like, but has been a little banged up. He's older. He has been hitting well recently, but I didn't think he was a long-term piece. You got a trio of prospects. I really like Henry Davis. I was definitely bummed to give him up. I think Henry Davis is going to be a very solid catcher moving forward. That being said, I do think there's a little bit of risk with kind of some of these fantasy catcher prospects. And, so some of them come up, they're not all like Adley where they're going to hit immediately. A lot of them might end up like Joey Bart. A lot of them might end up taking a little bit of time to become a competent, fantasy assets. So I was a little more okay with giving up Henry Davis than maybe I would have somebody who played another position. Warming Bernabel and Tink Hence have, in addition to having awesome names, have really shot up some of the prospect rankings recently. Hence is a 19-year-old starting pitcher in the Cardinals organization, has cracked the BA's top 100. He looks pretty solid, but again, he is a 19-year-old pitching prospect, so you just never know with these things. Bernabel is a player that I don't think necessarily has any carrying tool that you look at and you're like, wow, like he is just like this elite like power hitter or elite contact hitter. I think he's solid all around. Playing in cores will definitely help him, if he reaches the majors. But I thought he was expendable. I didn't view him as one of my top prospects or anything. Really, the only top prospect I felt like I dealt in this deal was Henry Davis. So, I thought it was a decent haul that I gave up, but I really liked what I got in return. Jorge Polanco, I think, is one of the more underrated players in fantasy baseball. He last year, let's pull up these numbers very quickly, 152 games. He had 33 homers, 11 steals, 97 runs, 98 ribbies, 323 OBP last year. That's fantastic. This year, he has more than doubled his walk rate. He had a 7% walk rate last year. It's up to 14.9% this year. He started the season slow as he did in 2021, and he did deal with a couple week injury here, but he's actually conveniently at the time of recording played exactly 81 games, and he's got 14 homers, 49 ribbies, and 3 steals. If you convert that to a 162 game pace, just double everything. That's 28 homers, 98 ribbies, 6 steals. He has a 350 OBP, so that's significantly higher than 2021. And he's been hot since June, so he kind of has an upward trajectory here. And he's in his age 28 season here. He just turned 29, but he'll start next season at the age of 29. So he's right there in his prime. I think he's a really good asset. He's sitting in the middle of a very good Twins lineup. I really like Jorge Polanco. I've been trying to get him for a while, and I'm really excited to have him. Matt Chapman is a really interesting case because you all heard me a couple podcasts ago talking about how the expected numbers were really good for him, but it's been 2.5 years. He just really hasn't been living up to it. He was hitting pretty well in June, but in July, he's taken it to another level. He is younger than Justin Turner, which I liked, kind of getting a little younger asset back with some upside here. He just hit his 20th homer this today at the day of recording. I think he can reasonably push for 30. Maybe not with the best OBP, but if he can maintain something like the 325 OBP he has right now, in a league where third base is really thin, that's definitely going to play. Conor Norby hasn't had the best of seasons, but I still like him as an Orioles prospect. I don't know if he has the high upside that some of these other Oriole prospects I'm rostering has, but I was excited to get him back. Gunnar Hoglund was someone I targeted during the draft. Obviously, the injury kind of deflated his draft stock a bit, but I think an argument could be made that he was the best, or not the best. I forgot about Jack Leiter, but maybe top 2 or top 3 pitching prospect in last year's draft. And I think he's worth a flyer. Also fun to now have 2 gunners in the farm. And, overall, I feel really good about this trade. The only piece I really bummed out about giving up is Henry Davis. I thought the rest of the pieces were relatively expendable, and I really like Polanco and Chapman.
Yeah, you just love going after these same several guys. You got Matt Chapman back. I don't have I don't have much to add. Jorge Polanco kind of seems he's like a slightly better Gene Segura, you know. But he reminds me a lot of him. He's a guy who's going to get like 110, 120 WRC plus every year. He's going to be consistent in that. God, he's walking a ton this year, Jorge Polanco. Oh my God.
I'll push back on that a bit. Gene Segura, other than in 2016 when he hit 20 home runs, has never had more than 14 home runs in a season. Jorge Polanco at 33 last year, 22 and 19. He's definitely going to shatter 20 this year. So I think he's a little better than Gene Segura.
Yeah, he's definitely better, and he's got shortstop also. But they kind of remind me of each other. They're both underrated. I think Polanco's a good get at a very thin position at second base.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I've been trying to get Polanco for a while.
No, absolutely.
I'll add one more fun fact because I think this is insane. There are now 5 players since March that EBO and I have traded to each other and then back to the other team. So now, and pretty big players too. So like George Springer, Matt Chapman, Trey Mancini, Henry Davis, and Conor Norby have all gone from one of our teams to the other team and back to the original team.
Yeah, your trade tree with EBO is just a circle.
Yeah, it really is. It's great. It's really funny. I told Zane about this, and Zane was so excited. He's like, "This is so cool." I'm like, "I agree. This is great." And who knows? Like I bet you Hunter Renfroe is going to find his way back on my roster. I'm sure, or maybe there's a Henry Davis deal in the future. That'd be a lot of fun.
I'm sure. Maybe he, maybe he's back on your roster by the time this episode comes up. Who knows?
That would be really funny. Well, honestly, when George Springer left the game on Saturday with an elbow injury, and I didn't know the extent of it at the time, but I was like, all right, what's the Renfroe price? Let's get him back on my roster, but he ended up being fine. So, but no, that's funny.
But let's move on to the final trade. Sadly, Hunter Renfroe is nowhere to be seen. This is just a simple one. You traded Colin Holderman for a third rounder to EBO. I don't know why EBO is acquiring a reliever. Apparently ESPN doesn't know what team Holderman is on. Apparently, despite his name, the Holderman only has 2 holds this year. What's going on here?
Yeah, I picked up Holderman right after the Vogelbach trade. I thought, like, he was doing pretty good with the Mets. Buck Showalter liked him. That's good enough for me with relievers. I thought maybe he could factor into the late inning mix for the Pirates. I think they actually sent him back to the minors right after the trade. And I was like, maybe they trade Bednar. That was kind of the way I spun it. I was like, maybe he ends up being the closer, 8th inning guy. I'm not totally convinced they trade Bednar this year, but I still think that Holderman could potentially be a holds guy, live up to his name. And I guess for EBO, they wanted to get rid of the pick, and they were like, you know what, we could take a chance on him. So I just wanted the prospect spot. I would have kept him. This wasn't like I was just going to cut him if I couldn't make a move here. I just thought that it'd make more sense to extract a little bit of value.
I suppose. I'm not sure I like the idea of trading for a guy who might get holds at some point in the future. Saves I can rationalize, but holds are just so weird. I wouldn't bet on possible future holds.
Yeah, I think that's fair. At the cost of a late 3rd round pick that they weren't planning on using, I don't know if it really matters at the end of the day, but yeah, I mean, I see the argument. I mean, the flip side is, like, I traded Andres Munoz last year for Adam Wainwright when Munoz didn't have a clear role, and I think he was still hurt. And look at Munoz this year.
That's true, but Wainwright that still worked out really well for you, considering what Wainwright did for you down the stretch.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's very fair. We'll see. We spent a lot of time talking about a reliever for a 3rd round pick deal. So
we did. Yeah, let's move on then. We have 6 brand new matchups to discuss. A lot of good ones. Why don't we break down the big upset? Is it an upset? Because these teams were tied in the standings going into this game. It still kind of feels surprising. Yuki is going to pull off the victory against Ruthvik.
I actually picked this to happen. I picked Yuki to beat Ruthvik. You picked Ruthvik to beat Yuki. So I guess this isn't a total shock to me. Ruthvik's team just can't hit. He had a 266 OBP this week, which crazy enough was not the worst OBP of the week. We'll get to that in a bit. But 7 home runs, 30 ribbies, 13 doubles, 29 runs. I mean, that's not going to cut it. He had a 194 ERA and a 110 whip, but he only had 3 quality starts on the week. Now granted, he did leave a few quality starts on his bench this week. I don't think that would have ended up making a difference in the matchup. However, I think he would have been able to flip quality starts. He probably would have just lost 5-7. But it's the same thing we talk about with this team each week. If he's not going to hit, this team's not going to go places. I mean, Seth Brown started at first base for Ruthvik today.
Ouch.
Seth Brown's not good. I mean, he's starting Charlie Blackmon, who has been decent, but he's declined. Mike Yastrzemski hasn't been as good this year. Dylan Carlson has been kind of mediocre. Ryan Mountcastle's been slumping. Ty France is hurt again. So there's just Devers is on the IL. So Ruthvik of all these teams here, I feel like is one who could really make a big offensive upgrade at the trade deadline and really help himself. I almost wonder if he would have been better off instead of trading Vargas for Musgrove, trading Vargas to go get an elite hitter. Although hard to pass up on someone like Musgrove, but he just really needs some offense, man.
He does, but his pitching was good. That is for sure. He had a 194 ERA, a 110 whip, both very solid. He got 4 holds. The pitching counting stats weren't amazing, but he did get good starts out of Jamison Tyone. He got a quality start from Musgrove. Shane Bieber pitched well as well. So he got that ERA and whip low. He only used 7 starts. Yuki, on the other hand, didn't really hit that much better than Ruthvik. He did well enough to win. He won all 6 hitting categories, but I don't think any, besides the 23 doubles, I don't think any of these individual numbers are exciting or anything. He only hit 8 homers. He scored 36 runs, drove in 32. None of these would have beaten most teams this week. So he did enough to win, and he did enough to put himself in the 6th seed, which is crazy. Yuki is now currently in 6th place, but it wasn't an impressive week for most of his bats, with the clear exception of Austin Riley, of course, matchup MVP once again. He hit 8 doubles. Austin Riley hit 8 of Yuki's 23 doubles in 1 week. That's crazy. Even crazier, he hit 8 doubles and a homer, and he only scored 3 runs. That's ridiculous.
Are you serious? That's nuts.
I don't know how that's possible. I mean, the Braves, let's look at, did they just strand him I mean, they must have stranded him all the time.
The back half of that Braves lineup right now is like low-key really bad. I mean, it's like...
they're on a 3-game winning streak, so they are scoring runs somehow.
I guess they're just...
Drove in 5, too. Where are these runs coming from? I don't know. They're not from Austin Riley, I guess.
Well, Austin Riley's the one who's driving them all in, so everybody...
No, he only drove in 5 runs. It's not like he...
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's weird.
I don't know. It is weird. Weird week for him, but he did win the clear matchup MVP for Yuki. That is Riley's 2nd matchup MVP in a row, 3rd total. Only Dylan Cease, Aaron Judge, and Yordan Alvarez have that many this year.
All for now.
For now, that's true.
Yeah, for now. I think it's safe to say that neither of these teams deserve to win this week.
No, I think you're right about that.
Yeah, there are more deserving teams that should have won this week. Speaking of teams that you look at, you're like, how the hell did they win this week? Andrew had a 247 OBP this week. He set the record for the worst.
He broke his own record that he set earlier this year.
Yes. And he still won 7-5. It looked like he was going to lose all week. And then like randomly at like 4:00, I looked at his matchup. I was like, holy shit, he's actually winning. And really, I think the pitching kind of carried him. But yeah, he won 7-5 over to Bellies. Won 2 offensive categories. He won homers with 9, ribbies with 36. And he won 5 of the 6 pitching categories. 7 saves, 3 quality starts, so not even a particularly high number or anything there. 72 Ks, 3.53 ERA, 109 whip are solid enough. Another team that, like, if they had played any other team, I think Andrew's just getting his ass beat, but he picked the right week to play to Bellies. And Andrew's now sitting at 500, 15 games into the season, 75% of the way there.
Yeah, he's only half a game behind Ruthvik. Rough offensive week. He had 2 different hitters go 1 for 23. That's ridiculous.
Who?
Carlos Santana and CJ Crone.
Oh man,
then Josh Donaldson went 2 for 24.
Yeah. Oh my God. CJ Crone. Of all the guys. Brutal
week. I will say though, it is tough to pick a matchup MVP, but I guess Reed Detmers is a good pick. He struck out 12. He had an immaculate inning, 7 innings, 1 earned run. Is only 1 start. I don't think I've ever given matchup MVP to a 1-start starting pitcher before, but that seems to be the winner from Andrew's team. No bats did better. Luis Urias was probably the best bat on this team, but I'm going to give it to Detmers.
Love it. Yeah, Detmers. It's been an up and down season for him, but good to see him kind of getting back on track here. As for the Bellies, I mean, just to talk about them briefly, the 9 steals that they had was nice. They didn't really do much else in any of the other categories. I'm more curious about this team at this point as someone who could potentially sell some players, as opposed to really what they're doing on a matchup to matchup basis. But this looks like a team that has the inside track to get the number 1 overall pick, or I guess the number 1 odds. Do they have their own pick? They do have their own pick. As a matter of fact, that's the only pick of theirs that they own.
Really?
Yeah, they have no other draft picks other than the 1st round pick. I've almost acquired that 1st round pick at different points this past offseason, fun fact, but I doubt
that would. God, if you were picking number 1, that would be annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to be able to get Jackson Holiday or Drew Jones, but
Drew Jones is hurt.
Yeah, he is hurt. I wonder if I go homer with the Drew Jones pick, or with a Jackson Holiday pick, or go with like Drew Jones.
Well, for all of our sakes, let's hope you don't have that option.
I don't know. You've had a couple of times where you've been able to pick early randomly, and it's pissed me off. I mean, the Adley year still annoys me.
Well, that was because I tanked.
That's true. But like you picking high last year was really annoying. Getting Jake's pick. Although Khalil Watson, man.
God, if only you had forced me to stick with Jordan Lawler.
That's going to be one of those things that we look back at in 10 or 15 years and we're like, oh no, like Cam fucked up.
Oh God, yeah. Could you imagine? Yeah, Lawler looks great. I still kind of get them confused.
Well, Lawler and Watson?
A little bit, but I'm sure it's gonna be harder to confuse them in the coming years.
Well, the way you determine which is one of them is an absolute nutcase and the other one is a normal good ball player.
All right. Well, the Bellies, normally known for their high on base percentage, couldn't do it this week. They had a rather poor on base percentage and still won that by 50 points.
Speaking of OBPs, we had the opposite happen this week. You had a 426 OBP. your 426 OBP would be second all time. What's crazy is that the team with the best single week OBP of all time had an OBP that was 20 points higher than the OBP you had this week. Panic at the Frisco, week 19, 2019, had a 4461 OBP. What also makes this crazy is that you low key, like for a good chunk of the week, were losing, and it wasn't a lock that you were going to win, even going into the last week or the last day. But you ended up pulling out an 8-3-1 win over Alex and Zach. Why don't you talk about this? This is your matchup.
Yeah, so this does feel a lot like last week against you, except the difference being in the end I was able to pull it out. I was losing most of the week, but I was still waiting on a lot of starts on the final day. And in the end, I was able to flip Ks and quality starts. And even ERA, Alex's pitchers kind of collapsed on the final day. He streamed JT Brubaker to try and win quality starts. That did not work out in his favor. On the other hand, 426 OBP. That is second all-time highest OBP since 2019. Only the second 400 OBP in the podcast era. And this one blows that last one out of the water. I just was firing on all cylinders. A bunch of runs. How many? 65? Yeah, 65. Kind of feels like Erik's run to the finals last year where he set the runs record and then set it again, but just on a little lighter scale. But I also hit 21 doubles and 22 homers. You don't see 20 plus in both of those super often. And I said it last week, but I'm going to say it again. One of the best offensive weeks I've ever seen. And this is now, I would have beaten every single team in the league. At an earlier point today, I would have been tied with Erik, both Erik and Jake, but I would have, if I was playing them, I would have flipped Ks on the final day to win that matchup. So that would have been crazy. I would now be, over the past 2 weeks, I would be 19-1-1 against the entire league. I would have tied Erik last week, but in the end, that one game I would have lost is against you, and I happen to face you. So just crazy, stupid luck like that. This week, although I will say my pitching was better, my ERA wasn't and WHIP weren't quite where I wanted them to be, but I did manage 82 strikeouts and 5 quality starts. I'm not super in love with my bullpen at the moment, but we'll work on that. Worry about that later. Matchup MVP for the 4th time this year, breaking that tie with Austin Riley and moving into a new tie for first with Yordan Alvarez. It's Aaron Judge, of course. Aaron Judge. God, he was great. He's always great. He had 10 RBIs, 5 more homers, 483 on base. With an honorable mention, a couple honorable mentions going to Jonathan India, who hit 4 doubles, had a 484 on base. And Alec Boehm. Ever since you said you were out on Alec Boehm, he has been on fire. He, in games in my lineup this week, he scored 6 runs, had a on-base percentage close to 600. Francisco Lindor had a 636 OBP. Really, the only hitter who played badly was Brandon Nimmo. But the guy who I my ringer to try and win more OBP that I acquired earlier this year. So yeah, I feel good about my team. I really wish I had won last week as well, because then I'd be sitting at 9-3-3 and looking a lot better than I am right now. But yeah. What do you think about the matchup?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. I think your team's just on a roll right now on the hitting side. I share maybe some of your concerns with the pitching, especially the bullpen. Some of the maybe starting pitcher performances this week. But your team's just killing it. And they've been playing well all season. The fact that you're the 4 seed right now cracks me up. But I think you summed it up really well.
Yeah, that is true. I do have a huge matchup this coming week against Jake. And let's talk about Jake. This was a huge matchup, and we're only talking about it now as the 4th matchup to talk about. Jake upset Erik. And this one doesn't look like it's gonna flip Jake.
The game's over, so it won't.
Yeah, I meant retroactively in a couple
Yeah.
days.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh man.
God, that would if that matchup hadn't flipped, I believe Jake would they be tied for first? I think they would be. Or Jake might be in first.
No, the Jake's gonna be Jake's gonna be a half game back. If that had flipped, that would have added a half game to Jake's score, and Jake would have the tiebreaker. So yeah, Jake would have been the
it would have added half a game to Jake, but it also would have taken half a game from Erik.
That's true. Yeah. So the tiebreaker wouldn't have been relevant. Yeah. Yeah. Jake would be the 1 seed without that.
Jake would be the 1 seed. God, that'd be weird. He
that doesn't feel like the best team.
Does not, but he has Erik's number at least, and I know he has my number. He played pretty well this week, 50 runs, 21 ribbies. Yeah, really not a lot to complain about. He struck out 86 batters, which would have been winner most weeks, except Erik. Erik struck out 98, so close to that 100 mark. Really just a solid all-around week for Jake. Erik, on the other hand, pitched great and hit terribly. Not a whole lot more to say about it. Erik, and he does have a lot of these weeks, but this felt like kind of an extra bad one for him with a 267 on base, the third team below 270, scored less than 40 runs, only hit 12 homers and 11 doubles. Just kind of mediocre to bad numbers there. Although the pitching numbers would have beaten just about any team. Overall, though, Jake looked better this week and he pulled out the win.
Yeah, I guess the magic of Leody Taveras is rubbing off for Erik. Wasn't able to pull out the dub this week. No, I mean it's strange because despite the fact that Erik got a 267 OBP, I guess he wasn't that far off in homers and ribbies. Like I guess there was some potential where he could have flipped it, and it was close all week. There were different times where he was leading, but yeah, I mean, I tend to think this is more of a blip in the radar for Erik more than anything. I'm not particularly worried about his team. This is a very impressive win for Jake, a huge win for Jake. And all of a sudden, I feel like the last few weeks we've been talking about how it's just kind of a foregone conclusion that Erik's going to be the 1 seed. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, Jake is going to be a half game behind him now, and Jake owns the tiebreaker. I'm going to be a game back of Erik, although Erik does have the tiebreaker over me. You're going to be a game and a half back. Conor's going to be a game and a half back. So, the race for the buys is as tight as it's ever been, or certainly as tight as it's been since early in the season. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, especially with you and, like you said, you and Jake playing next week. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. Matchup MVP. It's tough. I really want to give it to someone besides Yordan Alvarez, and I'm kind of torn. It's kind of between him and Real Muto, but Alvarez is just a tick better than Real Muto this week, and I can't help but giving it to him.
Yeah, no shame. If he earns it, he earns it.
He did earn it. He absolutely did. That's his fifth, breaking the tie that Aaron Judge just put him in at the top of the leaderboard this year. But yeah, he earned it. But with a shout out to JT Realmuto, who had a 500 on base and 7 RBIs. Additionally, Colton Wong had a good week. He scored 7 times and hit 4 doubles. And Yordan Alvarez stole a base this week. I mean, so did Realmuto too, but those two guys, and Wong stole one as well. Just kind of an all-around good week by that trio.
No, absolutely. Great week, indeed.
Yeah, on the pitching side, I'd like to shout out for Erik. Aaron Ashby had a great week with 15 strikeouts and a quality start. Pablo Lopez was, nope, he was not. Corbin Burns struck out 11. And then for Jake, 20 strikeouts for Carlos Rodon, who I guess was seen hugging teammates. Could he be on the move? That can't be possible.
They've talked about moving him. I don't think he got moved tonight or anything, but I'm sure he's heard the rumors because the Giants have not been particularly good. And maybe he's like, kind of just in case he's kind of showing the appreciation. But I don't think he's on his way out like this second or anything.
Yeah, I don't think so. That'd be kind of weird.
Well, he is a free agent after the year.
Really, there was only 1 year deal they gave him?
No, so it was a 2-year deal, but if he hit a certain innings limit, which he hit a couple starts ago, he has the ability to opt out.
Do you think he wants to opt out?
Oh, I think he would. If he keeps pitching the way he is this year, he's going to want a long-term deal. Why only opt in for 1 more year and risk getting hurt or something?
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm sure the Giants could get a haul for him.
I bet. Yeah, that could. It was weird. The Giants are weird, and maybe last year will just kind of look like a weird blip in their trajectory. I don't know, but yeah, having that random 100 win season, everything worked for them, and kind of going back to their 82 win ways. I wonder what the future holds for them and for Rodon.
I'm curious as well. I speculatively wonder if this could be kind of like the Twins last year. They did a little bit of a mini sell with like Barrios and Nelson Cruz and stuff, kind of reloaded, and they're better next year. I mean, that's kind of the flip side of maybe this year is the blip and not last year, but we'll have to see. I also loved your reaction for Pablo Lopez. You're like, oh, nope.
Yeah, I saw the strikeouts, and then I looked over the area. I was like, nope, he's not worth talking about. After
yeah, he gave up 12 hits today through 2 2/3 innings, 6 earned runs. That was not great. But
yeah, we're doing this live. I'm reading the stats one by one, and I look at strikeouts before ERA.
Yeah, this is it's an amateur production here, podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League, but we are prone to the occasional
for the M-SABR Dynasty League and for Lexi.
And for Lexi. Is Lexi still listening to all the episodes?
She's kind of behind. She's like, because she's at Camp Davis. She's in the wilderness, so she's not listening regularly anymore, but she says she's going to catch up.
Sounds like when you two drive back from Ann Arbor next weekend, that sounds like what you all should be listening to in the car.
Absolutely not.
You don't want to listen to your voice for like 12 straight hours?
I certainly do not. That sounds terrible. I already listened to my voice enough when I edit these.
That I didn't even think about that. So in addition to knowing what we record as we record it, you then have to listen back to it and make all the cuts and stuff for the editing. And yeah, you would not want to listen to it again. I don't want to go back and listen to them, and I don't even edit them. I just sit here and record with you. I never know what you even cut out. I just
yeah. I could be editing this in a way that makes you look terrible, and you'd have no idea.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Maybe I need to start listening to more of these.
Maybe you'll start dropping Easter eggs.
Start dropping Easter eggs. My God.
All right, moving on now. Let's talk about your matchup. You had a victory over EBO, but this one was kind of close for a lot of the week. It doesn't look super close at the end, but you pulled out an 8-3-1 victory to match my 8-3-1 victory. Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I like last week when I feel like I just like rolled over you with the pitching and still had a decent hitting week. This wasn't one of my better weeks. But I did enough to win. 7 quality starts, 3.21 ERA, 1.14 WHIP is definitely going to play in the pitching side with 80 strikeouts. Did just enough with the counting stats: 45 runs, 20 doubles, 10 and 12 homers, 40 ribbies, all fine. Nice to see a little steals boost for me here. 6 steals. Getting Mullins. He's been really big for that. Just barely won an OBP, which is kind of weird for me given how good I've been in OBP this year. But just kind of a standard victory. Nothing too special about it. Shout out to Matt Chapman, who I think is probably my matchup MVP. He hit 4 home runs after I traded for him in those 4 games. Although Hunter Renfroe has 6 home runs in his last 9 games too. So, definitely got some home runs this week in that trade.
Hunter Renfroe, when he was in your lineup, was 0 for 9.
That's interesting. The one day I didn't start him was after the first day of the bar, and he hit a 3-run home run on my bench. Meanwhile, my dumbass started Trey Mancini on an 0 for 25 slump facing Shane McClanahan and Nick Castellanos, who was slumping at the time, over Renfroe. God, Renfroe's had a really good matchup too. I forget. So, yeah, I didn't really get anything from Renfroe while he was the Yellow champ. That's going to go down as I wonder how many players I trade for who are major league players that end up having 0 hits on my roster. I'd be curious to see if there are any.
I mean, Jorge Polanco at this moment is also 0 for 9. He has 0 hits on your roster, but he has walked 3 times, unlike Renfroe.
Yeah. At least he's contributed, and Polanco is probably going to be here for a little longer than Renfroe is, but you never know. Maybe it'll be like last week where you mentioned a player and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to trade for them. Maybe it's going to happen this week, and maybe Polanco will be to return.
Maybe Reed Detmers is going to be on your team at some point. But yeah, no, I agree. Matt Chapman, I'll allow you to name him as your MVP. The only other name that I'm seeing that's jumping to mind is Max Fried, who had a pair of quality starts, 13 Ks in 13 innings with a 2.08 ERA. I'll give him a shout out. You had a good start from Woodruff as well. Garrett Cole got blown up a bit. Charlie Morton didn't look great. But overall, you pitched well. EBO definitely pitched better. They had a good week from Tarek Skubal, who looked great again in 6 shutout innings, although he only struck out 2. Keegan Thompson made a solid start for them as well. And their bats, though, just couldn't quite hang with yours, really, outside of Trey Turner. No one had a good week for them. But that's why they're 3-9-3 now, and you are holding on to that 3 spot.
Yeah, no, their team's just pretty banged up at the moment, which also really doesn't help. But they have the first round picks now. So now with I think this is interesting to bring up now with Ruthvik losing to Yuki. Yuki's now in possession of the 6th seed, and Ruthvik drops down to 7. So Ruthvik's on a playoff team. The reason that's significant in the context of EBO is EBO owns Ruthvik and Nick's first round pick, in addition to Andrews and in addition to Alex and Zach's. None of those teams are slated to make the playoffs right now. I mean, they could legitimately own half the lottery.
That is insane. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine the same team with the top 3 draft picks?
Oh my God, that'd be nuts. I mean, that's amazing.
I mean, God, imagine, Drew Jones, Termar Johnson, and Jackson Holiday or Elijah Green, all 3 of them back to back to back. I bet what Zane would do is what Zane and Sully would do. They'd take them in a weird order just to mess with everyone.
100%. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. God, that'd be amazing. I will say so. Alex, for reference, Alex in the basketball league actually had a similar situation where he owned 50% of the lottery, and he ended up getting the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th pick. Actually, one of those picks was your pick. And in the football league, there was a time where I ended up getting both the 1st and 2nd overall picks. So,
there are a lot of teams owning the lottery at one point. Alex and Zach had back-to-back draft picks at 3 and 4 in 2021, and then in 2022 they picked back-to-back again at 5 and 6. And EBO had a bunch of teams, a lot of moves last year. EBO had a bunch of first rounders at one point. You had a bunch of first rounders at one point.
I still made 2 first round picks.
You did. So did
And I
EBO.
had a third up until recently. I had Henry Davis I got from them.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. We have a green square in the first round already of last year's prospect draft. I don't believe we have a single legitimate. No, Casey Mize is the only other legitimate green square, and then my Adley Rutschman thing is green square, but as a joke.
Yeah, and Casey Mize is to EVO, so EVO's in possession of both of those legitimate green squares. I think what's crazy to me is that everybody owns who they draft in the first round. EVO doesn't have Sweeney. Everrise, everybody owns who they drafted in the second round. But the third round has been picked clean. It's only Anthony with Cesar Prieto, and Anthony holds on to his draft picks. And then a green square because I got Connor Norby back, but everybody else has been traded away.
Yeah, Cesar Prieto, looks like great. He's 23 already. Looked great in high A, but not very good in double A. I wonder how long he's not rising up boards or anything. I wonder how long he is on Anthony's team.
I wonder too, although he has been hitting better as of late for the Orioles. Side note for those of you who appreciate a good article, there was one that came out about Cesar Prieto and his trip from Cuba. And the guy who took him over, and there's the article kind of detailed how that went down. They showed some GoPro video of like them like literally taking Cesar Prieto and like running with him and getting him to kind of the safe spot. So would highly encourage that. I listened to an interview of that on my drive back from the bar the other day. It's just an absolutely insane story. So
yeah, but I guess this all just kind of goes to show that third round. This was not a particularly deep draft last year. The third round. I mean, I like Andrew Painter a lot. Geloff and Norby are both good ones. And as a Reds fan, I'm decently high in Ricardo Cabrera, but other than that, there's not a whole lot to like here. And that's kind of what everyone was thinking at the time. That's why everyone was dying to get out of this round.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is I think the first round has actually gotten had some pretty decent talent. And I think with everybody being like, oh, it's not deep, they kind of didn't really think of that. Like, Henry Davis, Colton Cowser's having a really good year. Harry Ford's having a really good year. Brady House, Jordan Lawler, Marcelo Meyer all look like legitimate prospects. Jack Leiter struggled a bit, but I still think the future is, still pretty bright for him. And even some of the guys in the second round here, James Wood,
Gavin Williams.
Yeah, Gavin Williams has been really good. Yeah, but this third round was barren.
Yeah.
We'll see though. Well, maybe one of these players will pan out. Maybe Gunnar Hagelin turns into something. I'm certainly hoping. I just acquired two of the players from this third round, so
right when we're talking about how much the third round sucks.
Well, actually, I own Lonnie White too, so I have three of them. Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah. But speaking of Cesar Prieto, he's owned by Anthony. We haven't talked about Anthony's matchup.
We have not. Yeah, this is just kind of a standard. Anthony didn't look great. Conor had a solid week and did well enough to win in the biggest blowout of the week.
Yeah, now Conor had 60 ribbies this week to go 17 homers and 7 steals. That's a great combo right there. Nice to see Miles Straw back on our roster. As an aside, racking up a few more hits. Hasn't stolen a base in a while, but definitely racking up some hits. And kind of impressive that Conor was able to do this despite Robbie Ray just really shitting the bed this week against the Astros. And Giolito not really looking sharp either. 5 innings, 3 earned, but 4 walks. So solid pitching week, solid hitting week, and Conor pulled out a win where he needed to. I think the bigger story here, and we kind of alluded to this at the beginning, is Mike Trout. For Andy. For those of you who don't know, but you should know by now, Mike Trout has a rare back condition that he's going to have to manage for the rest of his career. And we know how back injuries can really sap power. They're recurring. They don't go away. It's one of those things that could be, managed, but, it's never, it's always going to be something Trout's going to have to deal with. I mean, I'm seeing this firsthand with Christian Yelich, with the back issues that he's having. And I think there are a number of reasons he's not performing like he was in his MVP years, but I think the back injury is certainly a big part of it. And man, I wonder what this is going to mean for Anthony. I can't imagine he can sell Trout at this point, but I wonder if Trout ends the season hot, like he comes back, he looks fine. And the recent reports that have come out in the past couple of days look like he's going to come back really soon. I wonder if Anthony finally makes a push to trade him.
We'll see. I remember when we went to Fenway back at the end of May, we were talking about what teams would be able to put together any sort of offer for Trout, and I'm sure we were talking about how the asking price would have been astronomically high, as it should have been, as is his right, because it's Mike Trout. I know. I thought that I may be able to put together a good offer potentially. I know if I were him, the first any Trout trade would have to include Soto, which I guess, I mean, he would absolutely be right to ask for that, but I would never do it. So I don't know. I'm sure, yeah, like you said, the price is a lot lower now. Maybe more teams would be in the mix. I think maybe I could still be in the mix. I think if we're talking about what Anthony what his outfield looks like, maybe Brandon Marsh gets more playing time. Brandon Marsh is also on Anthony's team. Maybe in the real life Angels outfield, he gets a more extended chance, both short term and long term. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's also got Alek Thomas, but Alek Thomas has been cold. He went 1 for 18 this week. Andrew McCutchen's getting up there, although he's having a surprisingly good year for Milwaukee. Good for him. Kyle Tucker, of course. So he's got guys, and even coming up in the minors, he's got Brennan Davis, who's in AAA. So sure, he's got guys to take the place of Mike Trout, and it's not like Mike Trout is dead. It's not like this is a career-ending injury. So yeah, but I think you're right. It does increase the likelihood of him being off Anthony's roster by opening day next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the comparison I kind of give is Mookie Betts being dealt by EBO. And granted, EBO is more trigger happy. Mookie Betts, for as good as he is not Mike Trout. Mike Trout is at a different level than Mookie Betts. You and I both the last 2 years have ranked Mike Trout number 1 in our top 10 MLB players list for a good reason. And
I named Juan Soto number 1 this year.
Okay, but Trout was number 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we have him as a top 2 player, even despite the injuries and everything. We recognize the talent. It's but I think, and I don't think I don't think Anthony would be shooting for like exactly like the type of return that EBO got for Betts, but I think that price level is probably the starting point for a Trout offer, I would imagine. But it really depends on the injury. But I think you're right. I mean, I think he can be moved. I think it's a question of who does it make sense to go out and acquire him. And do teams really want to give up the assets, knowing that he has the back condition and he hasn't been able to stay healthy the past few years? And he's now over 30. I mean, again, he is still Mike Trout, but hey, look at Ken Griffey Jr., after the age of 30. Look at Albert Pujols after the age of 30. Generational talents that just weren't the same. So
yeah, absolutely, a lot of risk there. Speaking of generational talents, we haven't given out Conor's matchup MVP. I think, and as much as I want to say against the Reds doesn't count, you have to give it to Anthony Santander. 483 on base, 7 ribbies, 3 homers, 5 runs, carried Conor's offense. Conor had a great offensive week.
Yeah, well, the Reds still won 2 out of 3 against the Orioles, so maybe it should count. Anthony Santander's looked really good recently. We'll see if he sold the Orioles after the deadline. I wouldn't be totally surprised. I don't think the Orioles are going to do it, but I think I think he could be on the move. But yeah, Santander's looked really good this year, and I've certainly been happy to see that as an Orioles fan. But that looks like it's it for the matchups, unless there's anything else you want to add. We went on a lot of tangents today.
We did tangent-filled episode today.
We didn't have a ton of trades to talk about, though, so it's not the end of the world.
That is true. Yeah, we're doing this pretty quickly still.
Yeah,
with the lack of trades.
We didn't do our plan segment either.
We did not. Yeah, that's true. Looking ahead to week 16, there's really only one matchup that stands out. Only one between. Well, that's not true. There's 2 now that Yuki's a playoff team. Yuki does play Conor, but the one standing out has got to be me versus Jake. I have not beaten Jake's team since 2019, which is crazy. Jake's team is the only team I did not beat last year. His team beat me earlier this year, but it was really one I should have won. I'm kicking myself for that. It's just weird, just kind of peak weird last day stuff for me. And this was kind of the pinnacle of that, but I get another chance. This time my offense is hot, and Jake's pitching is hot. He kind of had a down couple weeks, but came back with a big win against Erik, and I'm terrified and excited to see what happens in our matchup this time.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one. As I alluded to earlier, I think there's going to be some major implications for playoff seeding. And I don't want to say this is like a must win for you or anything, but I feel like if you want to have a chance to get a bye, you can't really lose this one. You know, we're starting to get to the point now. There's 5 weeks left in the regular season. We're 75% of the way through the regular season. It's hard to believe. And if you don't have a tiebreaker over Jake, if you don't have the tiebreaker over Erik, you don't have the tiebreaker over me, that's going to be really hard for you to get a bye. Not only that, you still have not beaten a team who a projected playoff team this year, unless I guess
not true. I have beaten Yuki.
Okay, you haven't beaten any of the real contenders.
All right, so you're gonna move the goalposts now.
Okay, well, okay, fine. You have beaten.
No, I get it. You're right.
Yeah. You have not beaten the other 4 playoff teams this year, and if you want any chance of, you know, getting a good seed, you're running out of chances here.
I am. I've got this matchup with Jake that's going to be huge. If I win, we are tied in the standings, and I guess the second tiebreaker is categories 1, right? So I would just have to win by by more than half of a category, and I'll have the tiebreaker over Jake. And then I play Erik one more time down this stretch. I would need to beat him. I lost 3-7-2, so I need to beat him by a larger margin than that to have the tiebreaker over him. Essentially, I just need to win both of those games in order to have a chance. And if I win both of those, then I could even see myself at 1. That would be obviously a lot to do, but I still control my own destiny at the very least. You
definitely do. I'll give a quick shout out to Conor v. Yuki as well. You had mentioned it. This one's big for Yuki in the sense that he can really put some distance between himself and Ruthvik, although it's going to be hard with Ruthvik playing Daniel and Matt this week. But if Yuki wants to kind of keep himself in front and Indian sidetrack for the 6th seed, this is a huge win, a huge matchup. Also huge for Conor too. We've talked about you and me and Erik and Jake, but Conor is right there, tied with you in the standings, only a game and a half back of Erik at number 1. Only a game back of a potential bye. So anything that he can do to keep pace would be huge, especially playing a team like Yuki that's been on a roll recently. So yeah, good. Let's see what happens there. But I think it's time for us to review how we did last week. Cam and I did a great job picking matchups. We both picked myself to win. I won. We both picked Conor to win. Conor won. We both picked you to win. You won. We both picked Andrew to win. That almost looked bad, but Andrew pulled it out. I picked Yuki to win. You picked Ruthvik and Nick to win. And Yuki won. I almost won 6-0, but I picked Erik and Jake to tie. I was going to pick Jake to win, I think, or maybe I was going to pick Erik to win and then change my mind, but I picked them to tie. You picked Jake to win. So I won 5-0-1. You won 5-1. I am now at 48, 23, and 19 on the season. You are 48, 18, and 24. So you are still ahead of me in our pick'em standings. And that means that once again, you get to pick first. So without further ado, Cam Kane, let's hear your picks.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, tough week for sure. How about I think you will have no problem with Alex and Zach. I think Ruthvik and Nick will beat Daniel and Matt. I think Erik will beat Andrew. The rest are kind of interesting. I think EBO is going to take down Anthony. I think Yuki is going to pull off the win against Conor. And if he does that, then I believe he'll be ahead of Conor in the standings. Is that? Yeah, he will be.
Yep, that's correct.
God, yeah, Yuki'd be number 5, which is kind of crazy. And the last matchup is me versus Jake. And there's just a block, and I can't beat this team. And I think Jake's gonna pull it off once again.
Oh, all right. That is your 3rd straight week picking Jake. Let's see if that works out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good team. He's the 2 seed at the moment.
This is a brutal stretch for him too. He played me, then he played Conor, then he played Erik, and now he's playing you.
He is in this tough stretch for now.
He's 1-1 in that stretch.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah, and then after that, he gets EBO and the Tendies back to back. He does have to face you one more time, but then he faces his rival Anthony.
Oh man, yeah, this is gonna be a soft landing for him then this season. Yeah, it was really imperative you beat him this week then if you want any shot. But all right, here are my picks. I think I'll beat Alex and Zach. I don't think that's going to be particularly close. I think Ruthvik and Nick are going to be Daniel and Matt. I also don't think that's going to be close. I'm going to pick Conor to beat Yuki. Yuki's team just did not look impressive this week. I think Yuki's win streak has partially been playing some bad teams and partially with this week, maybe a little lucky he's playing Ruthvik. I don't think his team's playing particularly well. I feel more comfortable picking Conor's team. I'm going to pick Erik to beat Andrew. Andrew's team coming off a rough week. I'm just, I don't see him pulling it off. I think Erik's going to rebound. I think Anthony's going to beat EBO simply because EBO is just really banged up right now. And they're rostering a lot of players that should be sitting on an IL or under minor league team, but they just don't have room. You versus Jake is tough. And I know that Jake is like doing, has your number and all that, but your team is like just like killing it the past 2 weeks. I have to pick you. I don't want to do the cop out with the tie like last week. I'm just gonna pick you straight up. I'll even give a score prediction. Let's see if we can remember this for the podcast. I think you'll win 7-4-1.
Interesting. We've seen a lot of 7-4-1 lately. We had 2 7-4-1 matchups this week alone.
Really? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, we did, and also 2 8-3-1 matchups.
Damn. All right. Well, 7-4-1. I hope that's right. We're gonna be in Ann Arbor at the end of this matchup. This can be a fun one. A lot of us who are playing each other are going to be up there in Ann Arbor. It's going to be a blast. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add before we hop off here, Cam?
No, that's all I have to say. Other than over under 1.5 Hunter Renfroe trades by the time this gets published.
Honestly, I really want to trade for Hunter Renfroe now, just to get that to work out. Yeah. Hunter Renfroe is going to be the new who's the guy? Is it Brian Hayes? He got traded like 15 times.
Yeah, Jesus Sanchez too.
Oh man, yeah, Jesus Sanchez too. I wonder how many times Renfroe has been traded as a whole, because I think he low key like got some hype as a president. Would you believe that those were the first 3 Renfroe trades all occurred within an 8-day span? He has not been traded in the 5 years of the league before that.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny how these things work out sometimes.
It's just a great turn of events. Kind of Jock Peterson, I think, had a similar thing happen to him.
Jock did, yeah. Let's see if we can pull that up quickly. Yeah, Jock had the 2 trades on the same day. For as quick as he traded away Renfroe, like Jock Peterson literally spent like 3 hours on my roster. And then Jock before that had not been traded since oh man, this is back in 2020, I think.
Yeah, because he spent an entire year on my team.
Yeah. And then I forgot he was traded a month after the trade to EVO. He went to the Crone Zone, so Andrew currently has him. So yeah, that's 3 trades after only being traded once in like a 5-year span.
Man. All right. But yeah, that's all we have for today. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.